Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. It's Cheryl from Tinker's Card Art, and we are going to start painting more Halloween things. So we are going to paint a fun, easy acrylic painting today for Halloween. I want to thank you all for popping in, and I'm so excited to be participating in the 31 days of Halloween craft fun. So I'm going to pull up comments so you guys can say hello. Let me know that you're here. You're finding me on my Tinker's Card Art page. You're finding me on YouTube. We're also guesting on the 31 Days of Halloween Craft Fun, which is a great 31 days. Every day this month is going to be a different art or crafter. And that is on Teresa's page. Teresa is Teresa's Silhouette Spot for all things art. And thank you, Teresa, for organizing this. It's going to be a fabulous month. I have enjoyed the presenters that we've had so far. And those of you on my Tinker's Card Art page, I will be sharing those over. So every day, take a look for one of those crafters that are coming in. And I just want to say thank you. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. If you are here, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. And I'm going to remove the banner so that you can see what we're doing. And I'm going to switch my screen around because you don't need to see me. Although, wait, you got to see my candy corn earrings I've been dying to wear now that we're doing Halloween events. So, and I've got my Goosebumps shirt on. And so let me switch over so you can see what we're painting today. And good afternoon, everybody. This is different. I'm not usually on Tuesdays, but it's great to see you all. Let me bring up the comments. Any questions as we go along, feel free to post. Hello. Hi, Teresa. Feel free to post any questions you might have. This is recorded. You can always see the recording later, so don't worry if you can't stay for the whole presentation, but here we are. We're going to paint a fun little acrylic scene. It's going to be a little, get some bats in here. We're going to put some ghosts. We got it all covered. We got bats, pumpkins, ghosts, witches, gravestones, gnarly tree, everything under one. Hi, Sandy. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for popping in. Let me see. I put my glasses on so I can see you. So anyways, if anyone wants the tracer today, just let me know in the comments and I will send you a link for that. I should put that in the description too, but let's just get to painting. And I'll keep mentioning it. But if you need a tracer for this, I have it made in a couple different sizes for you. And you will have the image after we're done painting it. And what I'm using is just my ordinary acrylics. Whatever you have for your acrylic paints, craft acrylics, fine art acrylics, heavy body, fluid, use what you have. And I am just using a little bit of fall colors here. So I've got a blue for the sky, white, burnt sienna, black, a yellow, cad yellow, a little bit of purple, and some oranges. And that's all we really need, I think, for this. I'm always mixing a lot of my colors from my primaries because I don't want you to have to go out and buy all the paints. So I do tell you as we go along what you might need to mix your colors. So for instance, we really didn't need to have an orange on here. If we had our red out, we just mix our red and yellow. Same with the greens. We will have a tiny bit of green for our pumpkin stems. But again, we could mix that with yellow and blue. So do not feel like you have to have all of the supplies and all of the colors before you jump in and get started. Just get started. Hello, Charlotte and Deb. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Oh, did I say it was on Tuesday? Today's Wednesday, right? I'm all confused. As you guys might know that follow me, I just arrived in Florida on Sunday after a 2-day road trip from Maine. And so I was spending, I'm from Massachusetts, but sold my home in Massachusetts. And we are now, my husband and I and our 2 pups are living in Maine in the summer and Florida in the winter. What could be better than that, right? I'm so excited. But so forgive me if I'm off this week because I'm just getting myself settled into my studio here, realizing what I don't have and what I need. So I have enough to paint this painting, so we'll get going on that. Let's just get started. We can chat as we go. And please do say hello when you come in. I love to see you guys all here. Thank you so much for popping in. I know you're watching me from different platforms and things, but I'm just so happy to see you all. When I paint, and you've seen me paint a bit probably, I paint from the background forward usually. So we will do our sky here first. We're going to work forward. We're going to have a big full moon here. Then when that's dry, we're going to put our tree on, bats, little bits of silhouettes. We're just doing silhouettes of the little witches. They're not hard, you guys. It's just going to be painted black. You could paint, or if you're more comfortable, you could use a paint marker. So I'm going to make it easy for you. Let's just get our sky started. So I'm going to take a little tiny bit of blue into my white. I'm going to paint around the area where my moon is. I'm probably going to be able to see my tracing through. I can pretty well. I did this in pencil. I sketched mine on. I didn't trace it. If you're tracing it on with your graphite, you're really going to be okay. You're not going to lose. I might smudge my line a little bit, but I know where these pieces go, so I can even freehand them. So I'm going around the full moon. And I'll go around the tree trunk, but if I have to go over some of the branches, it's not a big deal. The tree is going to be in a silhouette of black with a little purple too. So that's going to cover anything we need to. So just a little bit of blue into your white, get your sky painted. And I'm taking I've got a little ultramarine blue there, just ordinary white. When I'm doing a background in a lot of my landscape painting and things, I like a hog bristle brush. So I will use my synthetic brushes for most everything else. But for the background, I like the way it digs into the nooks and crannies of the canvas. Is it necessary? No. But if you want to add a brush or two sometimes, I love the hog bristle. You'll find them in the fine art section of the stores. And I like a filbert, which is that rounded edge. That just happens to be what I like. I tell you what I like. It's not anything that you have to have. You could have very well done it with your big, like 1 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch brush. You would just have to dig a little more. It's such a soft brush, which is great for so many things, but I want to really dig in here and get this covered pretty quickly. Hello, Gina from California. Thank you so much. I love to know like who's the closest, who lives near me and is painting with me, and who's far away and who's in this country. So thanks for sharing that. My backgrounds, you'll see me do skies and whatever. I tend to go a little bit of a kind of a little crisscrossy stroke. Can you see that little stroke I'm using? It's basically to make the sky look a little natural. Because sometimes the paint's a little transparent and it's see-through. So if I do sort of a textured kind of a thing, more than back and forth, it will look a little more natural and I don't have those streaks. Now, back and forth works fabulous for if you're painting water. But I'm just painting this blue sky to start. And as I go, I mix it right on my palette. I don't mix a little perfect shade of blue before I start. I like it when I can go in and have it sometimes a little darker. I could go into just white and have it lighter. It looks more natural that way. You can just pop in some lights and darks if you want. Because this brush is a little sturdier, it will still mix the paints if they're at all damp. So I work fast so that I can, in fact, mix as I go if I need to. So I'm just going to go around my trunk of my tree here. I might leave a little indications of where my branches are. I am able to see through though, so I'm not worried about where my branches go. And they're free-handed. It's a crazy, gnarly, weird tree. We're not worried about following the design or the tracer exactly. Put your own spin on it. It does not have to be just like mine. That's my big thing, you guys. I don't want to see just like mine. I want to see your work. Hey, Deb, I'm so glad you caught me too. Thank you. And Joe, you're from California too. Cool. Thank you for mentioning that. And so I'm getting the blue covered that I need to. Working quickly so that I can blend as I go. It's covering in one coat, it'll be fine, but I'm going to put a little bit of a ring around the moon there a little bit. So I'll show you how I do that first. Let me just get this in. If I'm painting any kind of a sky, even if it's for a regular landscape, not a whimsical painting like this, I do the same thing. I mix my blue tiny bit into white and go as, as I feel like. We're not putting clouds in the sky. I do have tutorials out there about simply painting clouds if you struggle with clouds. And now, I don't want to have my big moon, like a big pasted on moon. I want to blend my yellow into my blue a little bit to make it look a little more natural. Hi, Cindy, my neighbor when I was in Mass. Yes, and I was worried about how the dogs would make the trip, and they were fabulous. I have an Irish Wolfhound and a miniature dachshund. 4 years old for the big girl, 16 for the little one. They did amazing. It was great. So how do I get that little bit of a blend there, especially if the paint is dried? I'll just re-wet here. I'll re-wet my light blue a little bit, maybe go into the white a little more. This is just going to be a little bit of a blender for me. Now, I want to get a clean brush for my yellow, or wash your brush off really carefully. But I'm going to just get some yellow. This is a softer brush, but it'll be okay. Like I say, I don't have a lot of my regular supplies here, so I'm going to do with what we have. I'm taking a little bit of yellow into my white, and I'm going to start my moon. Can you see how you can see the tracing right through there? I'm not worried about it too much. Go right behind these little gravestones and these little witches. And I don't want to touch that edge yet because I don't want the yellow and the blue to mix and give me a green look. So can you see I'm putting it on, but staying a little tiny bit shy of that edge. Dry off my brush. I do a lot of dry brushing and a lot of blending, keeping a paper towel usually handy or even in my hand so that I can wipe off. I want to wipe off that yellow. I'm going to go straight into just white and use that as my little bit of blender. So I'm going to go right along my edge of my moon here, and that's just going to soften that light yellow into the blue. And because I pick up a little blue, I just wipe it off. And what I want to do is just bring that out. And can you see how the dry brush sort of gives it that little halo effect? That's all I'm trying to get. I just don't want it to be just a hard edge. Now I can go back into my yellows if I want. And it's working wet and wet. So this is dry already. This is dry. But the little area I re-wet here is wet, and my little light yellow I put in here. That's enough to let me blend. And I even like to take, I love the spiral symbol. I use the spirals a lot. So I might just plop some yellow in the middle like this, spiral it out. It's kind of a fun, whimsical look too, especially like a little Halloween painting. And I would take that maybe and go right out over the edge of that moon where I was getting that little soft look around the edge. I'm going to do it just some white now. Many sun and moon things that I paint, I do this. I sort of just go right, sometimes right on top of the blue if it's a small bit, and I go right on top and I just sort of plunk my brush down and I spiral out. So I have a little bit of dark yellow, a little bit of white. And I'm going to dry it off because I'm picking up yellow and I want more white. Take white. And on this edge, I'm just going to make it a little bit softer, a little feathering it a little bit. And there we have a big full moon that we will put bats on front and little witches. So, yeah. And let's see, what a great group we have for popping in today. I'm so happy. I did send an email out a little while ago. And so if you would like a tracer, put it in the comments and I will give you a link. But also if you want to be on my email list and know when I'm going live, I will keep you posted or whatever's going on too. So just put that you'd like, you probably want the tracer too, and I'll give you all that information. But just let me know in the comments and I can certainly get some info out to you. And I think I'll go with a very light blue and continue that little spiral idea out onto my sky a little bit. Going back into my sky color now, and I'm just going to do this particular painting is more whimsical. Like I said, it's not like a realistic painting. I love painting both. I paint realistic sometimes, and I always put my own spin on it by using cool colors and little touches. But this is purely a little whimsical painting, so I think we can use these little spirals around just for fun. I painted this a few times. I think I had a darker blue background previously, which is okay. That's what I mean about making it your own. Do not say, okay, I have to mix that exact shade up Cheryl used because, oh, it won't look like hers. My first painting and this painting look very different. It's not about copying it exact. It's about learning the technique and utilizing it in a way that you like. I'm going to leave mine like that. I think it's good enough. You could finesse things and finesse them and pick at them until they're completely different. And then you don't really need to. Do it kind of quickly and then leave it alone. Step away from it if you need to. Especially look at it from a distance. Nobody's looking at the painting this close. They're going to look at it from, 4 feet away. So don't be judging yourself and your painting and getting all worked up that you don't like it. You've got to sometimes just step away from it and look at it from a distance. Andrea, I'll get that out to you. Yeah, so that's great. Anybody who wants a tracer? I did them in 8x10 and 11x14. I'm happy to do any size if you don't want either of those. Just let me know. Okay, so got the background done. We want to let it dry a little bit before we put our bats and our pumpkins and whatnot on. So let's start with our tree, work our way down because it's going to be pretty black behind the pumpkins here. And I think I've sketched my witches on a little bit high. So I need to bring my sky down a little bit. I'm just painting from a sketch today. So it's when you have the tracing, you won't have to adjust this, but I want them to be standing where there's sky behind them, where this is black. If the witches are black, you're not going to see them. So let me just paint a little more sky here and put a tiny bit more moon behind them, just so you'll see them when I have those painted. Okay, so my tree I'm going to put in black. I'm not going to paint it as a real tree. We're going to do black, and I'm going to give it some purple highlights. And so let's start that now. Now, let's see. I think I'll just use a bigger round brush. This might help making these creepy little branches. So the tree is bare of branches, and I have made it look even creepier by making these funny little, almost like Nightmare Before Christmas kind of trees. So let me just get the trunk in first, which I really do kind of put little knobs sticking out, little bumps. And I'm going to paint the shape, even though this is all going to be black. Let me just paint the shape of it first. And when we highlight it with purple, we will know where the tree ends and the ground, which is going to be black silhouette, starts. So I'm just going to get my little tree in there. It's great with the black because it covers so well. As you know, some of our acrylic colors are not the best coverage. But if you are having to put a second coat or sometimes a third on something, be patient. Put it on thin coat. Don't try to put it thick just because you know it's going to be transparent. Put it on, let it dry well, and then put your second coat. And if you need a third, just let it dry in between. You can speed it up with your heat gun or your hair dryer if you're impatient, like I am sometimes. And can you see I'm sort of making it lean a little bit? And I'm going to use my reference here a little bit too, because I can see through that a little bit, but not great. And sometimes I thin my paint down. I'm adding a little bit of water, a little drop of water there. When I'm doing some detail work sometimes, I want the paint to be a little thinner. So I will add water as I go. And I'm putting these little curly cues at the end of the branches to make it look a little bit creepier, I guess. Let's see, I'm going to go up here. I just want to get some branches off here. This side, you're really hardly going to see them, but let's get some on there. And I'm going to switch to a smaller brush so that I can get some of those little branches with those little curls on the end. And I'm just rinsing my brush off in between. Try to keep your brushes rinsed off in between. My big hog bristle brushes are a little sturdier, and sometimes I'll set it aside and rinse it when I can. But any of your synthetic brushes, really, if it sits with paint on it, in no time at all, it will, dry. And then if it dries, the paint dries in the ferrule, you get those splayed kind of crazy brushes, which are good for painting stuff, trees and foliage. So hang on to them, but try to keep your paint brushes rinsed off and take care of them, because they really will last you a long time. Even though they're not expensive sometimes, you want to have them last. And Joe, sure, I'll get you that too. Anybody who wants a tracer, just comment and I'll come back later and I will put the link, the tracer, which will also give you the opportunity to sign up for my email list or join my join. I have a private free page if you're interested in learning more. I teach quite a bit online and in person. And I have I have a lot of free things out there to get you to see how I paint and see if it works for you. I have some paid classes, and I also have an art membership, which is so fun. And I'll send you some information. You can take a look at that. So isn't it fun to do those creepy little, I don't know, those little weird branches? I see I've got a little blue showing through here, so I'll just touch that up. That's another thing that's great about acrylic paint, is that you can touch things up. You can go over things. You can start completely over if you really wanted to. If you really didn't like something, you could paint right over it, gesso or paint white and start again. But don't do that until you really know you can't save something. I do the same thing. I paint something and I look at it and I'm like, oh, I don't really like this at all. This isn't going to work for me. And I just let it sit overnight. And sometimes I get up and really and truly, it doesn't really need anything. So just take a break sometimes if you're getting little frustrated, paint in little increments sometimes if it's a very detailed piece. Take your time. It's a learning experience. We're always learning. If it's not a masterpiece when you're done, it's a fabulous learning experience. So just be kind to yourself. That's all I want you to do, is just enjoy the process. It's about the process. It's not really always about the outcome. If you're having fun, it's relaxing, that's all that counts. Okay, there's our creepy tree. I'm going to quickly, so I don't forget, is just take a little tiny bit of my sky color and just fill in. That's going to bug me if I don't fill it in. So I'll just fill that little bit in with some blue there. Okay. I will highlight my tree, like I said, with purple. If I'm painting anything, even if it's a more realistic pet portrait or something, and I am using black fur, whatever, I always highlight with a light blue or purple, not gray. I like to paint colorfully, and gray just dulls things. And if you're doing a pet portrait, for instance, it's going to look like an older pet when you start putting gray highlights. So light blue is fabulous. But because this is Halloween, we're going to do some purple. And actually, I even made these little pumpkins here. This little pumpkin is just a silhouette too. So let me paint that little one in. Even though his stem is going to be highlighted with green, I'm going to paint it black. And let's just paint the body. And I'm going to try to paint around the eyes and mouth. That way the yellow will show through, and that'll be kind of cool. It'll be an easier transition to making like a little bit of orange in his eyes. So let me just go around the eyes. I'm using just the black paint. I'm using a little bit more of a detail brush. Again, I'm adding water every few brush strokes because the paint is drying and I want it to flow nice like ink for me here, not really like heavy paint. Kind of outline the mouth a bit. And then when it's all dry, I'll run a little bit of a orange wash into the mouth and eyes because I just want that to be a little bit more orange. And this is really, really color paint by number here. We're just kind of filling the bits. And again, one coat will do it because of the black. Is everyone having fun painting Halloween and fall things? I know I am, and I'd love to see what you guys are doing too. Hi, Jackie. Thank you. Charlotte. Yes, Charlotte, I already have it in Dropbox. Please have Willow painted. I'd love to see it. Yes, it's in Dropbox already, and I'll give you that link. And it will get posted in our group too. Charlotte's one of my Tinker's Cardist members, which is my art membership. And when I do something like this, any sort of a free class or something, it always gets posted into the membership with the tracers and the images and whatnot for them, as well as all of our regular monthly content. So, and Charlotte's granddaughter, Willow, is such a character and such a little artist. She's adorable. Charlotte posted, she's so funny, and you could tell a story better than me, Charlotte, but she heard Willow talking in the other room and went in, and she was pretending she was me, right, Charlotte? Doing a video. She was painting hearts and telling everybody all about it, and she was putting on a little live. It was the best thing I've ever seen. It was so adorable. She is cute, and I would love to see if when she does this. This is pretty easy. She could do this easy, Charlotte, and you could even use, like, for the tree and things, the paint markers or Sharpie, but the paint markers are really good too. So I'm going to put my bats on now because I can see them, and this is all dry, and I'm up here working instead of going down here and putting my hand in the wet paint because you can see that my hands are always in the paint. And I'm just going to, again, these are just going to be little black bats, which I'll come back later and just put 2 little dots for eyes and highlight their little wings with some purple as well. Bats are pretty fun. I do love bats. I know people sometimes aren't crazy about bats, but I do love bats. And on Halloween time, I get to paint lots. So I was wondering what you guys are all painting. If you're painters, let me know. If you want to learn to paint, that you're in the right place. And if you're painting, I'd love to see some of your paintings. You're always welcome to share them in any of my groups. Anything you're working on. It doesn't have to be one of my paintings. It doesn't have to be a painting. It could be crafts. On Saturdays, we usually share what we're working on, and it could be just about any creative endeavor that you'd like. It doesn't have to be a painting. So I'm just painting these little, I'm following my traces, but basically it looks just like a little owl shape almost. And then I just go ahead and add wings. And then I'm just filling them in. I can feel my paint dragging a tiny bit. So I just, in between loading my brush, I add a little bit more water. Still has good coverage even when I thin it down. It's just ordinary craft paint. I make them different sizes. You don't want to do groups of things that are all the same size. Hey, Gail, thank you for making it. And I love when Willow says hello, Charlotte. That's the best. So I'm going to paint some that are a little smaller now. Same sort of shape. We're going to make it interesting. So we just want to vary them up a little bit. And like I said, you guys, there's going to be a fabulous 31 days of Halloween craft and art that Teresa on Teresa's silhouette spot for all things art on her page. I'm going to try to remember to share them all with you guys. I shared one earlier and I'll share yesterday's when I get off. So you can get a good, nice variety of different crafters and artists and see what they're making. So that'll be kind of fun. So many cool activities for Halloween and for October. A lot of art challenges and things out there. So I've got my bats painted, and some could be just simply these little, almost like you do the little birds, you know, in the distance. You could just do a few little ones just to vary the scale and the size. And there we are. Paint's drying really quickly today, which is great. And let me get my little witches in. Again, they're simple because they're just the silhouettes. So we just got the hats, got little round heads. When I'm making them, this is how simple it is. You don't have to say, oh, I can't do people. Look at it. It's a little triangle for a hat, a little round head, a little triangle for a body. And then they're going to get little skirts. Again, you'll have the tracing, but just if you want to paint these little guys on something that you're already painting, I'm going to make this one holding a broom. And this one, I think her hand just, it's just simple little lines. I like little stick people. And painting it in silhouette kind of makes it a little easy. So little legs, little sticks. And I love to give them little high heel witch boots, which I know is hardly anything, but it's just a little heel and a little toe and then a little boot top. Simple little, I mean, it's very simple. Doesn't have to be complicated. Yeah, the little witches are not a whole lot of detail, Deb, but they are fun to paint as a little silhouette. Oops, and I just tossed my brush, but luckily it didn't matter because it's going to be painted black there. So I did sketch this on real quick before we started. It's not exactly as the tracer will be. You'll have your guys lined up a little nicer. But again, a little ball for a head and a little triangle for the torso. Just fill it in. This could be easily done with a paint marker. I love the paint markers for lots of things. I seem to have a lot of the Posca ones. They seem to work really well. And what I love is this paint in the barrel. So you can hear that little metal ball in there that shakes up your paint. And there's all different tips. And it goes on looking more like paint than it does like a Sharpie, which would be flat. There are heavy tips, fine lines, and they even have some now that are brush tips, which are nice. This one here, you can really just almost paint with it. It's got a brush tip on it. And they come in all colors. So they are fun to paint your details, especially if you are a little, you know, a little unsure about painting a lot of the little tiny bits. You don't have to struggle. They're great for signing your name to your paintings as well. And I'm just going to give them their little witch shoes. She needs arms. She's in the middle. I think I just had her like kind of like almost like they're dancing. She's like doing ballet, say. That's our ballet witch. Ballerina witch. Okay, we'll do another little hat here. Little face, little body. Helps a lot when your paint is thinned down a bit. You could have made a little cauldron in front that they could be at. So many little touches. You could take this painting and just do lots of different things. I'm going to put a few little ghosts down here, but you could make bigger ghosts, more pumpkins hanging. I'd love to have you take some of my ideas and then make them your own by just adding your own little touches and things. Doesn't have to always be like everyone else's. And her little legs will just kind of make little sticks, and then those little boots. I'll show you really close up a little bit how little detail there really is in those little witches. Not too, oops, here we go. Hard for me to go opposite. So there we are, our little witches having a little party. And I'm going to paint in the ground. Actually, no, let's put the purple on our highlight on our things, because that way it'll show us where our tree is a little more. And it's simply, I can use any brush you want. I'm just taking a little purple. Now, sometimes I could take the purple if it's the right shade right out of the jar. Sometimes it needs a little white to show up, but I don't know till I put it on. So I'm not going to really worry about it. I'm going to just kind of, that's enough. I'm going to put it on there. And can you see? So I can lift it up so you can see. I know it's a little hard to see. I'm going to add a little white. Doesn't really need it, but just so you can see it. So it'll be a little extra brighter than you would want. But I just kind of lay it down, start and stop strokes, making it just look a little like bark. I'm not going to go out into the tips of these little things. And on the tree itself, I will just kind of go like this, kind of follow the shape maybe a little bit. And to get it to look almost like the ridges in your tree, I'm just going to go down and do the same thing. I'm going to put them on these little roots so we know where those are. And then now when we paint our base, we know where our tree roots are. But you know what? You could have just painted this all black and just taken some of this purple and just brought it down on top. So I'm just going on what I can. And sometimes, like I said, I use light blue for this. But where this is Halloween and purple is a great Halloween color, this is perfect. So you can see how it looks from a distance, like a little bit like the ridges in the texture of the bark. I don't mind that it's not loose. I'm not adding water to this. I want this to be more of a dry brush, because then you get that texture that you want for a bark. It's kind of rough. You can use that texture from the canvas even. If you like, you can go onto these little bits with a smaller brush. I don't know if it really needs it. And the bats, I just did a little scooch on the bats, just a little bit, nothing. This again is a little bit brighter white than I would use. I would probably go just a little less bright, but I want you to see how easy. I'm just sticking it on there. I'm not really doing much. We'll add some orange to the pumpkin, but for now it's just the purple. And now let's get our base in there, what everything's sitting on. I'm going to go around my pumpkins, and I'm just going to use straight black. Alrighty, so more black paint. I think I need a little tiny bit more. And there we are. And I'm going to go around my pumpkins because it would be very difficult to paint the orange over. But what happens if you are painting something light over dark? What would you do? What I would do is paint that object white. So say this was a black canvas, or you painted the black and now you needed to put your orange pumpkin. I would just go ahead and do as many coats of white as I had to, and then paint my light over it. Because there are times when that happens. A lot of times when you want to use an orange or a yellow and it's a little translucent, I would base coat the object with the white, or sometimes just mix a little white into those colors, and it will make the paint a little more opaque and more coverage. All right. Like I said, and throw in any comments of any questions about anything at all painting related. I'd be happy to address those. And so we are just going to give a little ground for those witches to stand on. And I am just going to go with the bigger brush now because it'll be easy to just do that. And the colors dry. Sometimes they do dry and they sort of fade into the background a little bit. You don't have the vibrancy that you did when you just painted it. Say for the purple on this tree, for instance. Just go back later and do a second coat once it's dry, and then you can do a third coat. I go back a little bit and add those little highlights. I love at the end to put the really highlights on and get them to pop. So sometimes I do go back a few times with a few little details just to make the color pop a little bit. Today I'm just painting on a piece of canvas board. It's like a mixed media. Canson makes it, and it's a canvas board. Makes it easy for me to store all these samples. But you could paint this on a gallery wrap canvas, plain canvas, piece of wood, tin. Think outside the box when you're looking for surfaces because it's so fun to paint things that are just a little different. You can see I'm always painting on crazy things. I'll show you a few things, but now that I'm down in Florida, I don't have all my samples that I had up in Maine. I brought a few things that I'll show you because if you're new to me, I can show you sort of the things that I work on, sort of the things that are in my membership. I teach a lot of absolute beginners, and I go like a nice pace, usually step by step, always recorded, whether it's live. If I present in live, it's always recorded. So you can go back and watch it later or stop and start. But I want people, even if they think they're not artistically inclined or weren't born with that talent, I want them to feel like they can learn to paint if they have the desire to. It's like anything else that you learn. Some things you're born naturally with, and some people are born naturally to cook or whatever it might be. Other people just learn it. How do we learn it? We have someone teach us. We show them step by step. We watch videos and read instructions. Same with painting. And then it's just practice. But what's so good about it, and it doesn't matter what it looks like, really, truly, because who is to say what's good and what's not, to be honest, if you look at some art out there. But it's good for your soul. It's good for your well-being. It's stress relief. It takes you away from everyday thoughts and struggles and worries. Just for a little while, you kind of forget because you get wrapped up with what you're doing. So I do like to encourage people to pursue it if they have an inkling, because you can. So I have my ground painted here, but I wanted to add a few little bits and pieces just to make it more interesting. So I'm really thinning down my black paint using my little detail brush. You could use a liner, but I'm just going to make little grasses, just so it's not this flat line going across. We want to break that up and make it more interesting. And as I got to the tree, I'm looking at my sample. I got some really tall, like little flowers and grasses almost, but in silhouette. So we don't have to worry about colors. It just breaks up the monotony of that long flat line. I might add a few strokes of green in here. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm doing them in silhouette, so I might just make like little petals here, just little dabs like they are vines and whatnot. Some, and I'm going to hold it up so you can see because I know that this is a little bit far away. I'm getting a frog in my throat. My allergies have been awful lately, and I'm a little surprised. So see how I just put some little flower dots really of black that indicate the silhouette of flowers and just little grasses. I was very surprised here in Florida yesterday that they had the poor air quality and the smoke from the Canadian wildfires. We had that all summer up in Maine, but to really see it down here, I was surprised how, what a small world we are, really. It's coming right down here too. So my allergies have been kind of acting up. So I sound a little weird, I think. But anyway, so a lot of this painting is done in black, watered down a bit. You know how I said I wanted to do orange in my eyes of my pumpkin? I'm going to take a little orange and I'm going to water that down because it's almost like a little wash. And I'm just going to give a little wash of orange inside the eyes and the mouth. And this helps make them look a little three-dimensional too. Even though it's a whimsical, fun painting, we want our elements, to have a little bit of depth. And if we had kept it just the yellow, it would look like it's just flat and you're seeing the sun, the moon, behind. But if we do the orange, it appears that maybe it's a rounded pumpkin that's got a little candle in there or something. So I just give it a quick little bit of orange in there. I probably will give him eyes just to make him look creepier. Toothpick, back end of a brush, something to make a little dot with. And you could just dot a couple of eyes in there, just making them kind of a crazy little face. But pretty simple. Still, ghosts are pretty easy, and you can make them. I'm going to make them bigger than what I have in my sample. I made them teeny. But isn't it great? You see all the ghost paintings now that everybody's doing with the vintage finds of the old pastoral, beautiful little scenes, and then they come and they paint ghosts in them. It's really like the rage on TikTok and whatnot. But I did something like that ages ago, just for fun, I did like you find those little fields in the farm scene and whatnot, and I painted like little stormtroopers walking through and Darth Vader and stuff like that. That was fun. But for this time around, I don't know if you saw it, but you'll find it on my page somewhere. Is I took, you know that we had it hanging in our house, I'm sure. The angels, the little cherubs sitting like they're sitting like this, I think. So I painted them smoking cigarettes and drinking drinks as fallen angels. It was kind of funny. It's on my page and on my TikTok too, I think. But so it is fun to find those old paintings and just doctor them up. Oh, I did a plate. That's right. I did a plate, a ceramic plate. I didn't know how the paint would adhere. It was a Norman Rockwell paint. It was a beautiful collection of plates, and they had them marked at the vintage store for $2. So I bought one of the little girl sitting on the couch, and then I painted a ghost, kind of like fashioned after the Haunted Mansion ghost that are riding in the cart with you, because she was sitting on the couch. So I put it sitting next to her like that, like they were on the ride. So remember to use your imagination when you go thrifting or yard sailing or around your house and you find some odd old thing to paint on. It's really kind of fun. And I've just started doing that. And it's like a little scavenger hunt. I know I got so much traction. I put that little globe I painted on, the man in the moon. It was a little metal globe. I found like 2 globes and a bunch of tin stuff at the Salvation Army store. Little metal globe. And again, I didn't know how it would react to paint, but I did gesso on the whole metal part. And then I painted it like a man in the moon face. People loved it. It's like I could sold 1,000,000 of them, but I'm keeping that one. I loved it so much. But I might paint some more. Hi, Nancy. Thanks for popping in. So ghosts. So I got on the tangent of ghosts and painting on all those ghost things. And okay, I'll get some wood. I make a ghost, a couple ghosts. Ghosts are so simple. They're like little sheets with eyes. So I'm going to use that little detail brush still, I think. I also have, you can't see it, but I have my water, cup of water here. I keep 2. I have one for all my brushes I rinse, but then I try to keep one, which is on my little narwhal cup, which I really found at Salvation Army and loved. And I just keep clean water in it as best as I can. I try to use just for my white and my light colors. That way I don't have to run to the sink constantly. I hate it when I'm using really murky water. So that is what I do. I keep 2 cups of water there. Ghosts are a little transparent. So I am going to thin my paint down so you can kind of see through. And they're just really those typical funny ghost shapes that you see. That's very transparent, but it looks kind of cool. I might make it a little bit more see-through, but some of them can have these little arms like they're flying, or, you could have some that are just that typical ghost shape, and then just a couple of eyes, maybe sometimes a little nose. I think I did just eyes on mine. So if you start with that really transparent white, and then maybe hit it a little bit with a little bit more pigment, it kind of is kind of cool. It still looks see-through. I'm going to put more on. Then you'll see the sample I posted was the original painting, but I always embellish or change. So I'm putting little bigger ghosts on here. And you could even put them, like, say you wanted to put one up here. Now you've learned how to paint ghosts and bats and pumpkins and witches, and you could just go ahead and make a really fun painting on your own. Use your imagination. Take reference photos. I keep a little folder on my phone with all the photos that I want to use as reference or an idea for a paint night or something like that. So, and then they're easier to find. But on your iPhone, you can search. You could say dogs, cats, St. Bernards, whatever you're looking for, and it will pull up your photos. That's kind of a nice little handy feature. These guys will get little eyes too. This is just a little stylus that I'm using. Could use it for tracing, or I use it for making dots mostly. And they just get 2 little black dots for their eyes. Pretty easy. Oh, I'm going to give the bats some eyes too. So let's do this. Ghost's eyes. Bat's eyes, I just did kind of like a light yellow, but you need to have some white in there because otherwise yellow's not going to really show. So I'm just taking a little yellow and a little white, and just you can't really do it on the tiny ones, but if you can get them on some of them, and the little ones maybe not so much, but now they have little eyes, just tiny little simple eyes. These pumpkins, oh, you know what? Before I do them, I think I just gave a little detail to my witch. Purple again. And maybe a little white so you can see it. And I just gave them a little band on their hats and a little, like their little waist, a little belt. That's all I did on them. Oh, I took a little green and just kind of dry brushed it. I don't want to paint the stem completely. I want to keep him as a silhouette, but just dry brush a little green on there. I'm going to do the same on the pumpkin with a little bit. You can barely see it, but I just did a little swatch of green. And I'm going to do the same with a little bit of orange. This I don't want to have the paint thin down. I want it to be kind of heavy so it drags. So I'll take a little of my orange and I'm just going to just quickly put a couple of little, just some little strokes dry brushed on there. Just because maybe it's a little reflection of the moon, a glow or something. It's just not strictly just black. Even down here, I'm going to put a little bit of highlights of this full moon down here on the grass. I think I'll do that next, actually, because then I will paint my pumpkins. And you saw, I maybe didn't explain, but I just was painting little gravestones here just in black paint. They don't really need any detail. They look a little like trash cans, don't they? Anyway, they are tombstones. Graveyard. Okay, now these guys, pumpkins. Next. So again, I want it to be a dry brush, kind of a little bit of the yellow we used here, a little bit of the white, and just as a little reflection on the ground. So I will take some yellow again and some white, because I think we might need a little white in there. I'm going to dry my brush off, because I want to just drag it along like this and have it rough like the canvas. See how you can see the texture of the canvas through that? And I think I'm going to go with some straight white a little bit. Straight yellow, just to make a little bit of a brighter. And that is all you need for that. And now we'll paint our pumpkins in. And I'm going to paint them in orange. And then I'll just give them a little highlight. So I'll start with the darker orange. I have kind of a darker, more of a red tone orange. It's one of my heavy bodied acrylics, so I really need to thin it down a little bit. And I'm just going to follow that shape. I'm not worried to go around my eyes. I could paint those on right on top without taking a tiny brush and having to struggle through. They're going to be black, so we don't have to worry about leaving them like we did for this guy. We're going to just paint them in black. And we'll get these rounded and three-dimensional looking by their shading and highlight. So we'll add some shading on them first, then we'll add some lighter orange, make them look three-dimensional. That's the trick, you guys, of getting your elements to look 3D. They're two-dimensional. You add darks and lights. So you get shadows and then highlights, and all of a sudden your flat object appears to be three-dimensional a little bit. So there we are. Let's let that dry. I actually can see my features right through there. And I always examine the rest while I'm in between. So say I wanted a little brighter purple, I could do that. If my ghosts look a little too faded, I could, add a little heavier white. So just kind of keep an eye on your whole painting as you go and just touch up places here and there. Might go a little heavier on this ghost because it's hard with the yellow behind it. If I thought I wanted to have a little more of my spiral on there showing, I could take my white now because it's dry, and I could kind of just do that sort of thing a little bit if I wanted it to be a little brighter. I think we're good except for our faces on our pumpkins. Lois, hey, thanks for popping in. It's good to see you, and thank you for sprinkling and sharing. I appreciate that. You guys, when we're online presenters, all of us on the different sites, it really, really helps us by just letting your friends know that we're here, liking, sending an emoji, interacting or commenting. It's a simple little thing, but you wouldn't believe how much it helps us with getting our videos out there. So I like to do a lot of like little free segments like this. I have a lot on YouTube if you want to look. Of course, also I have some paid ones, and I spoke about the membership. But we love to paint and craft with you guys. I just love to sit instead of me sitting and painting by myself. To go live and have company is so much fun to me. But it really will help us if you could just like Lois did. If you have friends that are interested in painting and crafting, share our pages, our sites, our videos, and just say hello and just, the chat back and forth does amazing things for getting us to be seen. So it's always wonderful, and not just artists and creators. Any small businesses, you have a small business that you like, please give them reviews. You can always review people on Yelp and on Facebook. Give them a good review. You only hear when there's something wrong. People just are happy to jump online and say something, but it's so nice to hear if someone's enjoying something and just chatting amongst yourselves. We build a community here. That's what it's all about, is the community of other people with same interests. We're separate lots of times by big areas of the country or the world, but it brings us all together doing something we love. And I just love it. And I love being here. Um, and I guess that's my speech. Anyway, let's put some highlights. No, shadows first. So even a little simple pumpkin like this, it's not a big still life of a pumpkin and a cornucopia and all that, but we still want to give it some shadows and highlights. So I'm going to start with the shadows. I'm going to pick a little burnt sienna, which is that red brown. I might want it a little darker. I might take a tad of black. And all I'm going to do is put those little ridges, the little ridges that you find on pumpkins. I'm just going to paint those in. And if it was a bigger pumpkin and I was worried about, more realistic, I would probably soften that or blend it. But we really don't need to on this guy. I'm using kind of a watered down paint. It's not like so harsh. It's basically just those little dividers. And yeah, if you wanted to, you could just soften it a little bit. And if it wasn't dark enough, a little more black in there in places if you wanted just a little bit. That's too dark. You can see I mix a lot on my palette. I try to get out just the basic colors and then mix what I need. And you know what that does too? That makes your painting a little more cohesive overall if you are using just a few colors, mixing them together to get the other shades, or using that same color but different shades of it, rather than grabbing all kinds of colors that don't belong. I try to keep, believe it or not, even with something like this, a simpler color palette. I sort of decide on the color palette first and get those colors out. And then I can mix and get also, like that one green, I can get a really dark forest green. I can get a lime green by mixing. Instead of taking all the colors out in different bottles, it just makes it more cohesive, I think, somehow. So, okay, I'm going to give a little highlight in between these little dark areas with my lighter orange. And again, I'm going to put it on. It might not show up as well, and I'll add a little white or yellow to it if that's the case. Well, thanks, Lois. I love bringing them to life. It's so fun, even if it's something I've painted before, or just it's great when I just have a little inkling of something and then it sort of comes to life. So this is not showing up a ton, but it's a little different. So I'm going to go and just brush it on in between here to start. I will get it a little lighter as we go. The best part is going on at the end and putting on the really highlights. Again, whether it's a realistic painting, whether I'm a plein air painting, whether it's a still life. But it's nice to build up the layers slowly. So we had a dark, really red orange. Now I've got a lighter orange. Don't see it too much because the oranges are transparent, but it's a little bit more rounded. And now I'm going to even bring it to life more by adding some white to that. We need to have it show up a bit. Might grab a little yellow as well. Just want kind of a light shade. And so maybe the top would be a little bit brighter. Starting to get some shape. So the moon is shining on the top of the pumpkin a little more. Probably the edges of these ridges sometimes. The front one is usually the brightest, and I kind of do a little bit on the sides of these guys. And again, I stand back, I look at it. It looks a little bit like a little whitish, not as yellow as I'd like. Now I've got that little whitish base. I could go with some straight yellow and change it. So it's just a matter of looking at it. What do you think? Do you like it? You want to adjust? You can. It's acrylic paint. You can do that. So there we are. They are a little bit more rounded now, right? And we can paint their little features in. I'm also going to, let me just paint some green for their stem first. So let's get a little stem in there. This little stem, I can't see the green too much. I might put a little more on there. I'm going to do a little curlicue. I love to do these little curlicues on my pumpkins. I think like a yellow, something that will show up, a lime green or something lighter. little white maybe. Really thin down because I'm going to use my detail brush. And I'm going to just make these little curly cues. Just kind of fun, just for fun. And then we do the little faces in black, just eyes and nose, eyes and mouth. These guys aren't too big. And my paint's been sitting out. It's a little bit heavy, but I can thin it a little bit still. And this little guy, I like to vary them. I don't want to have them all have the same face. So this guy, let's make him have like round eyes and a round mouth, like he's yelling or screaming. I love those little mouths. And you can just, if they're a little bigger, you could put little noses, but I didn't think we needed it. This guy can have these kind of half moon eyes. He'll be similar to the guy hanging on the tree. And just a little mouth like that. And that, I think, finishes our painting. What do you guys think? Hey, Debbie, you're never late because it's always recorded. So no worries. I'm just glad you're here. And like I said in the beginning, anybody who wants a tracer, put it in the comments. I'll send you a link. And if anyone wants to be on my email list, so you know when I'm going live to paint, put that in the comments. Let me give you a little close up. It's pretty simple painting, like I said. You could use all the elements in this painting to make up your own paintings. You could have just a whole row of pumpkins across the bottom and a tree and big ghosts or no bats or bats. So just use all the little elements and paint it like this too if you want, of course, but do share with me. I'd love to see it. Let me switch over here now, and I wanted to show you some things I'm working on too in case you want to take a look. So I did say I do have the art membership. It's so much fun. Some of the things we have coming up, let me show you. I only have a few here, but well, this is enough because you don't want to be here all day because it's fun. But so for Christmas, I've got some new designs. Oh, wait a minute. I'll show you that way. So this is going to be like a little snow globe. This is more of a little illustration kind of thing. Little snow globe. What I love about this, you guys, is you could personalize it here with a name. Be great for a Christmas card design. All you need to do is send off a photo of your artwork to something like Vistaprint. Vistaprint at Christmas time always seems to have a half price sale. And that's when I order all my art on my own cards. And it's so cool because you put the art on the front. You can pick a glossy or a matte finish. They're beautiful cards. You can put your greeting inside, artwork inside, backside. You can put a little logo. People love that. And you can make your own cards easily. Another trick to making your own cards easily, if you don't want to go and have it printed, is just take a photo, print up the photos. Snapfish has specials all the time, or CVS or wherever. And then just buy those blank cards in envelopes that are in all of the craft and art stores. And you can just double side tape your image on the front of the blank card. Use a little mechanical pencil and you could put your name and title it. And people love that, to get that, because then they can even take and frame that little 4x6 card. So ideas. So I always like to give you ideas that are outside just painting. That is one we're going to do at Christmas. We're also doing this one, which is going to be personalized with child's name on the stocking if you want. And then I thought of, well, what if there's more kids? So I also have a version where he's holding a scroll of the good names, the good kids. This we're doing actually this month in the membership. So this is the covered bridge. We're doing that this month. I paint 4 times with you in the membership. 2 recorded lessons. Like this covered bridge will come as a recording because that way you can take your time, stop and start. Then I paint live with you twice a month too. This is one of the Halloween ones we're going to do in our membership too. That recording is coming out on Monday. A couple things that happened to be here in Florida we did over the summer. Little beach shack. Again, personalized with bathing suits and things. Random, my little fox, which I do love. So we do all kinds of paintings in the membership. We do animals, and we do landscapes, and we do florals. All kinds of things. We just mix it up. You might know, if you follow me, I'm a big plein air painter. That means going outside and painting. It's the best of both worlds, being outside and painting. I participate in a lot of plein air events. This summer I did quite a few. I sold pretty much all my paintings. And it's fun because you're given a time frame. You go out and you paint for that time frame. Usually in the morning, they'll stamp your canvas so that they know that you painted it at the event. Then you come back, turn them in early afternoon, say. A lot of times, and there's a wet paint sale, so everything goes up for sale. Really a fun time to network with other artists, be outside in the hopefully usually beautiful weather, but sometimes not, but that's okay. So sometimes I'll take those paintings when people like them and transfer them into a painting we do in the membership. We are doing a lighthouse painting, which I don't have it in front of me this month. When I did do that lighthouse painting, I also did this little one. So this is just on a wood panel. And for instance, so sometimes when I'm out painting, it gives me inspiration. And if people like a painting and they say, oh, we want to do that, I will put that into our mix. And then watch, because the vintage stuff is a blast. This was something I did last winter. Look at painting on ice skates. So whatever it is, if it's got a surface and you can paint it, people love it. This hanging on the door with a couple of scenes would be so fun. So I would love it if you kind of followed me along out there on the socials, and I can share what I'm up to with you. I appreciate you coming out today to paint, and thank you so much, Teresa, for the opportunity and the fun event. Watch my page or Teresa's page, Teresa's Silhouette Spot, for all things art. On her page, you'll see every day the crafter of the day, and I will share it into my groups as well. And thank you. Oh, I know I never stop. I'm sorry. One quick thing. This has been an hour. Now, I know it's easy to say, I'd love to learn to paint. I really want to. I just don't have the time. I don't have the time. We did all that in an hour, and you could break it up into a couple of 20, 30-minute segments. So sometimes I even do it. I don't have time today to paint. But then if I say, I'm going to take 25 minutes, everybody has 25 minutes. And you'd be surprised how much you can get done. So try to get out there and paint. And if you have any questions getting started, please let me know. Thank you all for painting with me, and I will see you next time. Bye.